Have you ever been in that situation, maybe at work, where you're really trying to impress, maybe pushing a bit too hard, and it just completely blows up in your face? What if trying to, outdo your boss could actually be the quickest way to get yourself sidelined? Today, we're doing a deep dive into a fascinating principle. Law 1. Never outshine the master, from a well-known guide on power strategies. Our goal here is to really pull out the key nuggets, the most important insights from the source material, to give you a shortcut to understanding this, well, pretty counterintuitive idea about power dynamics.
And it's more than just, basic office politics or common sense. This goes deep into human psychology. We're talking about historical patterns that honestly still play out all the time today. The sources we looked at are very clear on this. The advice is always make those above you feel comfortably superior.
Okay, so let's get into it with a really captivating story, a perfect example of what happens when you ignore this law. Let's talk about Nicolas Fouquet. He was Louis XIV's finance minister back in the 17th century. The sources describe him as, well, generous, loved big parties, women, poetry, and obviously, given his lifestyle, he liked money too. And in 1661, the Prime Minister Jules Mazarin died, and Fouquet really expected he was next in line. Big promotion. But Louis, the king, he just abolished the position. Quite a surprise move. So Fouquet starts feeling like maybe he's losing favor, and what does he do? He throws this absolutely massive party. Ostensibly, it was to celebrate finishing his amazing new chateau, Vaux-le-Vicomte, but really, it was all about impressing the king, honoring the king. But the sheer scale of it just backfired terribly. Apparently, guests were just, dazzled by Fouquet himself more than the king. It looked like Fouquet was just showing off his incredible wealth and power.
Right, and you have to remember who Louis XIV was, the Sun King. Incredibly proud, definitely arrogant, and he absolutely had to be the center of attention, always. He couldn't stand anyone seeming more magnificent or lavish than him, especially not his own finance minister. So Fouquet's amazing party, even though maybe his intentions were good, it just massively bruised Louis's ego, his value that couldn't take it.
And the fallout was immediate and harsh. The very next day, the day after the party, Fouquet gets arrested by D'Artagnan, no less, the head musketeer. 3 months later, he's on trial. The charge: stealing from the treasury. But here's the kicker. The sources say most of what he supposedly stole was actually done for the king, sometimes even with the king's okay. Doesn't matter. He was found guilty, sentenced to 20 years solitary confinement in France's toughest, most isolated prison. Voltaire had that famous line about it, didn't he? Fouquet went from the top of the world to the absolute bottom in just one evening.
Yeah, it's a brutal story. And what's really telling is who Louis XIV picked to replace him. Jean-Baptiste Colbert, a guy known for being, well, thrifty. His parties were apparently pretty dull, but Colbert made sure the money went straight to Louis. No competition there. And this just highlights that point perfectly, doesn't it? The sources say bosses, people in power, might pretend to appreciate your talents, but the moment they feel threatened or, outshone, they'll look for someone less intimidating, someone safer. That's just the fate, apparently, of anyone who makes the master feel insecure, pokes holes in their vanity, or makes them question their own superiority.
So, okay, moving away from, kings and chateaus.
Yeah.
What's the lesson for us today? It's not just about avoiding super lavish parties, right?
No, not at all.
The real insight here, according to the sources, is that it's about ego. Everyone's got insecurities, deep down, and when you display your talents, even naturally without meaning to show off, it can stir up all sorts of stuff in people above you: resentment, envy, insecurity. It's kind of mind-blowing that you could accidentally outshine your boss just by being good at your job, or just being yourself, especially if that boss is, as the sources put it, monstrously insecure. They mentioned Astorta Manfredi, this prince of Faenza, who was apparently just naturally charming and everyone loved him. Even that could be dangerous.
Exactly. And connecting that to the bigger picture, the strategy isn't really about making yourself small or hiding your light completely. It's more about flipping this law around, using it to your advantage. How? By subtly flattering your master, by puffing them up a bit, making them feel good. And the sources actually give some very specific tactics for this. They call them the keys to power.
Okay, keys to power. So it's like a strategic playbook for managing upwards. What kind of tactics are we talking about?
Well, for one, discreet flattery works way better than being really obvious about it. Overt flattery can just seem fake, And if you happen to be smarter than your boss, the advice is actually to appear less smart.
Really? Play dumb?
Sort of. Act a bit naive. Make it seem like you need their expertise, their guidance.
So they get to feel like the wise mentor.
Precisely. You could even make small, harmless mistakes sometimes. Things that give you an excuse to ask for their help. Masters apparently love being asked for help. If they feel they can't bestow their great experience on you, they might actually start to resent you, direct that rancor and ill will your way, as the sources say.
That's clever, turning a mistake into an opportunity for them to shine. Okay, what if your ideas are just genuinely better, more creative?
Then you give them the credit. Publicly. You frame your ideas as just building on theirs, like, oh, this is just an echo of your brilliant advice. Make them look good.
Okay, I see the pattern here. What about personality? Like if you're funnier or more charismatic?
Tread carefully there, too. You can be the witty one, the court jester type, but never in a way that makes the master look dull or, cold and surly in comparison. Maybe tone down your own humor sometimes. Find ways to make them seem like the source of the fun and laughter.
That sounds tricky. And generosity? Or being more sociable?
Same principle. Don't block their light. Don't be the one everyone gathers around if they're in the room. The master has to be the sun, right? Everyone else revolves around them. Even when you're entertaining them, maybe show a little restraint. A display of your limited means might actually win you more points than trying to impress them with your own style or generosity. That could be fatal, like Fouquet learned the hard way.
It really is like a delicate dance, isn't it?
Ooh, wow.
Wow. Okay, so the sources must have an example of someone who did this right, and they do. Galileo Galilei, the famous astronomer. Back in the early 1600s, his research totally depended on funding from rich patrons, rulers, and he figured this out. He learned to kind of gift wrap his discoveries for his patrons. He gave a military compass he developed to the Duke of Gonzaga. He dedicated a whole book about it to the Medici family. The sources say, if you make your master shine brighter in front of others, like Galileo did, you become invaluable. A godsend, and promotion follows.
Right. The core image is so clear. There's only one sun in the sky. You never, ever try to block its light or compete with its brilliance. Your job is to kind of fade into the background and find ways to make that master star seem even brighter, more intense. There's a great quote from Balthazar Gracian that sums it up perfectly. Avoid outshining the master. All superiority is odious, but the superiority of a subject over his prince is not only stupid, it is fatal.
Fatal. Strong word. Okay, but this raises a huge question. Is this rule absolute? Are there ever times when you should actually break it? The sources get really interesting here. They talk about a reversal. They even say, quite bluntly, you must be selectively cruel.
This is where it gets really strategic. They talk about the falling star scenario. If your boss, your superior, is clearly on the way out, their power's fading, influence declining, then, that sources say, you actually don't need to worry about outshining them. In fact, don't hold back, don't be merciful. They probably weren't on their way up, but it's nuanced. If they're weak but not quite finished, you can maybe discreetly speed things up, outperform them, outcharm them, outsmart them at just the right moments. However, if they're already really weak, clearly about to fall, maybe just let it happen. Stepping on them then might just make you look cruel and undermine your own position.
Okay, that makes sense. Timing and context are key.
Yeah.
But what if the opposite is true? What if your boss is solid, powerful, but you genuinely know you're more capable, more talented?
Yeah.
You just play the game forever.
Yeah, that's the long game situation. The advice there is basically patience. Bide your time. Be patient. Power shifts, people move on, situations change. If you play your cards right, you can, as the sources suggest, eventually outlive and someday outshine him. It's about waiting for the right moment, not dimming your lights forever.
So when we boil it all down, this isn't really about being weak or, kissing up, is it? It's framed as a very deliberate strategy. Making others feel superior isn't surrender. It's actually presented as a smart way to gain and hold on to power yourself. Disguising your strengths, in this view, isn't weakness if it helps you stay in control, avoid making enemies out of insecure people, and ultimately gets you where you want to go. It's definitely a pragmatic take, maybe even a bit cynical, but you can see how it offers a kind of toolkit for navigating tricky power structures.
Absolutely. And maybe this leaves you, the listener, with a really interesting question to ponder. Thinking about your own environment, your own life, can you identify who might be a falling star or who acts like a sun king? And what does figuring that out suggest about the smartest way for you to navigate your own path towards influence and achieving your goals? Something to think about.